A century ago, the remnants of an ancient Jewish tribe, living echoes of a bygone age, began their return to the land of Israel. The sense of togetherness and an abundance of musical talent are the unique traits of the Yemenite Jews. The Israeli composers, who until then had drawn their musical inspiration from their birthplaces, mainly Russia and Germany, were seeking new sounds to reflect those of ancient Israel. In the 1920s, at the encouragement of Chaim Nachman Bialik, verses from the Bible were set to a Yemenite melody which soon became the most popular Tu B'Shvat song. The Yemenite sense of togetherness in everyday life and in music was well suited to the atmosphere of camaraderie that typified the early days of settlement. Yemenites like Suleiman the Great and his musical family and the traditional celebrations they organized, the Chaflot, are as popular today as they were then. The Yemenites were very different from the other Jews who had arrived from the diaspora. The attitude at the time was to create a new and proud Jew, an alternative to the persecuted European Jew. The Yemenites were perceived as a perfect blend, combining the ancient world with a new one. Their influence is evident in all the arts: drawing, painting, jewelry making, dance, and of course, music. The trend of the Israeli composers since the 1930s had been to combine Near Eastern musical elements with European techniques. Composers such as Paul Ben Chaim, Mordechai Setter, and others were captivated by Yemenite melodies. This influence is also felt in Noam Sharif's music for woodwinds, trombone, piano, and bass. All these composers saw themselves as creators of a new style of art music, the Mediterranean style. Songs were always accompanied by dance. Styles varied with the different regions of Yemen. The Khabani from the east, and those from the center near Sa'ana. Drumming was used by all. Mourning the destruction of the Second Temple resulted in the prohibition of using musical instruments. The Yemenites, stringent in their observance, accepted this ban literally. Instead of developing the playing of musical instruments, they perfected singing and rhythm. Another unifying factor is the Diwan, a 300-year-old collection of liturgical hymns dating to Rabbi Shalom Shabazi, the greatest of Yemenite liturgical poets. The Diwan, the basis of all songs for men, is always divided into three parts. The first part, called the Nashid, is an introduction, always sung by a soloist. In Yemen, the Jews could be distinguished from the Arabs by their simonim, side locks. They are still part of their traditional costume. The nasheed concludes with a paraphrased verse from the Book of Psalms, chanted in a set melody, which serves as a bridge to the second part, called Shirah.
حكمة وضعت عذابي عين لالفة عن وثقرة شنو قومي ثرارا التمام اللاحظ وعبرة تحمد وغمتين حبارا.
When the atmosphere becomes charged, the singer switches the melody or changes the rhythm. The more switches there are, the more successful the event and the more esteemed the singer. Most liturgical hymns are sung in Hebrew or Arabic and some in Aramaic. The dancers also express the content of the hymn. The singer is in constant contact with the dancers. The dance fulfills a cultural custom and is not merely performed for its own sake. The music never slows down, but rather accelerates constantly. At the end of the Shirah, the singer recites the last line. This signals the beginning of the third part of the Diwan, the Hallel. The Hallel begins and ends with the word Hallelujah. It is always sung to a fixed melody, a living testimony of the most ancient sounds of Jewish music that, despite the millennia of exile in Yemen, remain unchanged. The Hallel consists of prose, including numerous biblical quotations. Its source is the Hallel prayer, recited in the synagogue on holidays and also on Hoshana Rabbah, the last day of the Tabernacle Festival. There is evidence that this is the way it was sung during the days of the temple. One Talmudic source claims that this is also how the Israelites sang the Song of the Sea when they left Egypt. The scene has changed, but not the sounds. Folk tradition links the origin of the Jews in Yemen to the period of the First Temple's destruction. Ancient Jewish customs, which had nearly vanished, have been passed on due to the Yemenites, who preserved them with utmost accuracy. Yemenites were always known for their precision. The rhythm begins with the Hebrew language. They are precise in their pronunciation of Hebrew, singing it in measured rhythm and always together. Hebrew is a rhythmic language. Every syllable must be emphasized. The Yemenites preserve the original Hebrew pronunciation. The reading of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, is the foundation of it all. Most Jewish communities have only one qualified Torah reader. In Yemenite synagogues, each person called to the Torah reads for himself. As in Talmudic times, the reader is assisted by hand signals indicating the cantillation. During the Second Temple, the Jews in Israel did not understand Hebrew, and an Aramaic translation was necessary. A child reads the Aramaic translation of each verse. This is an ancient custom derived from the Mishnah, twice in the Bible and once in translation. Every syllable is a musical unit. The Yemenite chants date back even earlier than the cantillations developed in Tiberias in the 6th century. In a society in which togetherness means so much, important functions are assigned to everyone, even to children. Children are familiarized with the traditions of their forefathers starting at a young age. The Mishnah states that Bible study begins at age 3. Even today, Yemenite Jews, including those who are not particularly observant, send their children for religious studies after school. Rudiments of Torah reading and Yemenite tradition are taught by the Mori, the most significant educational figure. The melodies are fixed and designed to serve the text. The main purpose is to review the weekly Torah portion. For generations, the Yemenites have educated their children in this manner. This tradition continues unchanged. When the children turn into young adults and it is their turn to leave home, the majority still prefer to spend their time in an atmosphere of familiar sounds, at nightclubs for Yemenite music. Yemenite Jews have not closed themselves off from modern civilization. Their culture allows them to accept innovations while preserving their own lifestyle. This is a living, breathing, and persuasive culture. Along with the rigidly structured songs of men, another singing style exists which allows freedom to improvise, but all remains within the boundaries of ancient tradition. The music of Yemenite Jews is not considered part of Oriental Jewish music. It is a separate and unique tradition. Rhythmic discipline is preferred over the embellishments and trills that characterize music in other Islamic countries. Even among the Arab people, Yemen is esteemed as a country possessing the finest and most original music. Love can only be fulfilled through the holiness of matrimony. The folk songs of Yemenite women are drawn from the surrounding Arab environment. The women in Yemen did not know how to read and write and were exempt from prayer and Torah study. Since they could not sing from the diwan, they invented their own songs. These songs voice simple human emotions, the love of man for woman, of mother for child, a woman's feelings toward her husband, jealousy, themes that are not found in the songs of men. Not all women were sufficiently talented to compose and improvise. They had to possess exceptional artistic ability. There were always talented women whose songs were adopted by the community and passed on orally from mother to daughter. Members of the community called them the poetesses. The role of women's music was similar to the men's, to bring joy to the bride and groom. The wedding is the grandest and most festive event of all. The bride and groom are crowned as king and queen, and their status obliges them to behave with regal dignity. Everything is carried out precisely and meticulously. Weddings in Yemen took about 2 weeks and included 6 banquets and 3 breakfasts, 2 parties that lasted until dawn, 3 special celebrations for the bride, 5 ceremonies for the groom and 7 for the bride, 7 processions for the groom and 3 for the bride. The culmination was the henna ceremony, the only tradition that is still practiced in Israel today. The king and queen must rise above all to surround themselves with pomp and circumstance. Their role is to be the object of love for all who surround them. A Yemenite proverb says, "The wedding is for 2, but the joy is for thousands." It is a religious obligation to bring happiness to the bride and groom, thus song and dance. As the wedding day approaches, it is believed that demons will try to threaten family harmony. The purpose of the henna ceremony is to exorcise these demons. One interesting aspect of this custom is its continued existence in modern Israeli culture. The henna ceremony is still as popular today as it was in the early days. In typical Yemenite tradition, Achinoam Nini selected a poem, this one by Leah Goldberg, and composed a melody for it that reminds her of her childhood, in the spirit of a Shabazi hymn and with the freedom of improvisation inherent in her culture. The day after the henna ceremony is the wedding day.
וכאשר תפקח את עיניך, הבוקר הופך לאחר הצהריים מאוחרים. פוקח עיניך, פוקח עיניך, וכאשר תפקח את עיניך, הבוקר הופך לאחר הצהריים מאוחרים.
With the establishment of the State of Israel, most of the Yemenites came in Operation Magic Carpet. There were more than 1,000 Jewish communities in Yemen. The largest one in Sa'ana had about 5,000 Jews. The total number of Jews in Yemen was estimated at 70,000. The contribution of Yemenite Jews to Israeli music is immeasurably greater than their relative proportion to the population. The Yemenite culture flourished precisely because they held on to their uniqueness and authenticity. The ethnic dances of the Yemenites also continue to exist. Many dance troupes were established. The most well-known is the Inbal Dance Theater, which developed their own movements, combining personal abstract expression with a return to traditional sources. The modern age is characterized by rhythm. Surprisingly, the archaic Yemenite rhythms match the modern beat. The similarity between Yemenite and European music can be found in the world of sounds, and especially in that of rhythm. This is apparently the reason why Yemenite music was able to break down the barriers and reach out to international audiences. The greatest success of all so far is Ofra Chaza, the singer. It is interesting to note that of all the various styles of Yemenite music, the diwan songs, so precise in nature, have become those universally popular. It is amazing that the source of the international hit song Imnin Alu is from the Yemenite Diwan, which relates to the destruction of the temple. And it was their strict interpretation of religious law that compelled the Yemenites to ban musical instruments and to channel their great musical talents and energies into rhythm. Meticulous adherence to authentic and ancient sources provides the driving force for innovation and renewal.
شامي حياتك خلنا حي ضبيب